going on, fellas? It's Tuesday night again. Here's our live. I see some guys popping up in the comments. What's going on, fellas? Hey guys, tonight we're gonna do the winner from the Yak-A-Bass tournament up at Oroville. We got Joe Silva in the background, and then John, myself, and Mr. Shane Jones are gonna talk about basic kayak necessities that you guys might need on a day on the water. For somebody new getting into tournament fishing, kayak fishing in general, we're going to go ahead and discuss some of the gear that we use on a daily basis that we'd be lost without it on the water. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the fellas. Johnny, good afternoon, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, yeah. All right, Shane, what's going on, bud? Welcome back, guys.
Afternoon.
Yeah, all right, let's you guys got anything first off?
No, just happy to be on here.
All right, let's bring in the man of the hour. Joe, how you doing, bud?
Doing good. How you guys? 1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. How you guys doing? I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Everybody's
already noticing.
Big old win.
Yeah. How's it feel to knock
hardware
John
on
off
the
his
wall.
pedestal?
I've always been chasing John, so
yeah.
I mean, I want the best for John, but I'd say it feels good.
It feels great when we always beat John.
Well,
John
we'll revisit that thought after a few more tournaments.
You're right.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
my name
let the
was
season
Fish
play out.
Johnny there for a long time.
Yeah, man. So Oroville, let's. I know unfortunately, I didn't fish it. I was attending my kid's first basketball game of the season, so that's what I was doing. I know the rest of you three did. So what? Go ahead and break down the weather, Shane. What was the weather like? What was the water temps at? Kind of give us a rundown of that there.
Well, I launched out a loafer, and it was comfortable. It wasn't like cold or anything. The wind was actually really calm for most of the day, and it had a few gusts, throughout the morning and into the afternoon. But it was totally comfortable on the water. I had no issues. I don't think anyone had issues. But the water temps where I was at was sticking right around 48 degrees up to 50. And, for me, I'll tell you what, I got out there like 2 weeks ago, and I got on them really good, and I was feeling pretty confident that I'd be okay going into the tournament. And I got into first 5 casts in the morning, and I hooked into my first fish with an A-rig, and I was like, oh man, this is the same pattern I found. The fish are here. And I thought, it's going to be a good day. And I spent the next 6.5, 7 hours trying to find something, and I didn't find them. So from what I could tell, for my part, the fish were glued on the bottom. I was able to draw them out on an A-rig, but I would follow up with either a drop shot. Well, I hate drop shot, but I did throw a drop shot, threw a jig. And they were there. I just couldn't get them to bite. No matter how slow I would throw it or hop it or whatever. I'm glad everyone else found them. Pretty excited when I came back to the ramp, and everyone's like, yeah, I caught a limit. Yeah, I caught a limit. And I was like thinking to myself, what the heck did I do wrong? But hey, that's fishing, right? That's
right.
I think that's what, most of us keeps us pushing us, to go back out there again. Cause I can't wait to get back out to Oroville and figure out what's going on. So
absolutely. Yeah. That happens to all of us. I know John was right there. Two Fish Johnny last time we had him on.
Yeah.
So John, I know you got 5.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
us how you did it.
I just wanted to say, first of all, fishing was tough. It wasn't easy to catch a lot of fish. People that did catch a lot of fish, they were definitely doing the right thing. Pre-fishing, I got on a spoon bite, and it was working really well. It was really super easy to get them to bite, and I'd use a forward facing, and I'd see wolf packs swim by, and I'd see, groups of fish, and I'd just cast the spoon over to them, and they would hit it immediately. Day of the tournament, the first cove I was in, where I had found a lot of bait, the pond smelt. Fish were no pond smelt, no fish. I mean, there was fish glued to the bottom, like Shane said, but they were
Yeah.
the size. They weren't the bigger size fish. So I had one other area I went to and got a limit, and it was an extremely smaller area, just like a break on a huge flat with a break, and the fish would come in, and wolf packs would come by, and they wouldn't even look at this. Well, they would look at it and they'd swirl around it, but and if anything, they would foul hook it and wouldn't touch the bait. But then I'd still have to work it a little longer, and 5 minutes later, after they left, I'd get a bite. So it was extremely slow for me. I kept with the spoon the whole entire time. Caught smaller fish, pre-fishing on bottom bouncing baits. But I want to hear how Joey did it.
Yeah, exactly.
I already know.
No
But
kidding.
anyways,
Yeah.
Well,
it was tough for me.
it was funny because I mean I saw a ton of bait out there. There was a ton of bait balls, and there was no fish around them. And I mean I threw a spoon too for some of the day, and I'm glad you figured them out with the spoon because I sure didn't.
So Joey, you ended up with 83 inches. Second place was Mr. Blanchard at 79 3/4, and then Sean Latham at 79 1/2. So you had a pretty good lead. So what'd you find different than the rest of these fellows?
Well, I'm curious where you guys are, where you're finding bait balls, because I was looking hard during practice day. I did practice the day before, and I couldn't find any bait. And the bait that I did find was, 45, 50 feet down. And the bass I found, they weren't that deep. They didn't seem to have any interest in chasing them down that far. But yeah, I spent the practice day. I went up. I can't remember if it's the Fall River arm or the Feather River arm, which river runs in there. But I launched out of Bidwell, went east towards the bridge, and then I went left at that fork. And I did maybe like an hour of map study that week, and I saw that when you draw the lake down, there's a cove up there that's flattens out a little bit more than the other coves that are in that arm. And I figured that maybe if they're close to spawn, then I'll at least have, an area where they're in transition going to. So I figured deep water, shallow, they got to be somewhere in between. So tournament day, well, let's back up to practice. Practice day, the way I fish is I put my live scope down. I used to side scan, down scan. I've kind of gotten away from that. And I glue my eyes on the screen all day, and I sweep left and right with that marine sniper pole. It's real easy. You just turn the knob and it sweeps. So I do my finding of fish that way. And I went up that arm, and there was fish everywhere. They were close to rock walls, all the way from the bridge to the back of that creek. They were there. I must have caught, I think, maybe 10 to 12 fish in practice. And, I was just taste testing. I wasn't trying to catch a whole bunch of them, but they seemed to be everywhere, but they were a little bit shy of the baits I was throwing. I actually had to downsize, but I'll get to that in a second. But that pocket that I had mapped out the week prior, there was little small humps in that cove that would drop off from maybe 0 to 15 feet real gradually. And they seemed to be hanging out right off that 15-foot mark. So I'd be sitting in 40, and I'd see them up at 15 feet on those humps, and you might be able to classify them as secondary points, but they were hardly even points. They were just little gradual drop-offs. But I think I located maybe 5 groups of fish in that cove, and 2 of them I was really excited about because they were 14, 15-inch fish when I caught them. So I knew that based on past tournament results, I think last time we were at Oroville, it was 78 inches, 78 to win. So I knew that if I had 14s and 15s, that I'd be doing okay. But I wasn't stoked about the size at all. But come tournament day, I had those spots mapped out. There's about 5 of them in that cove. I made the decision to shoot all the way there. And If this is long-winded, someone let me know, by the way. I'm giving a
No,
lot of
you're good.
detail here.
No, you're fine.
So I made the decision to shoot an hour to that spot without fishing. Obviously, we get that 30 minutes, and then I use that additional 30 minutes to get there. And I'm in an autopilot, so it's fairly slow. But I wanted that area to myself, and I wanted to really milk it before anyone got there. And someone else had found it. I forgot. I didn't see who the angler was, but they were in that area as well. And we shared that little cove. And right away they were hitting the bait. And I'll give away the baits I was using too. I have no problem sharing them. So this is the one. This was my primary one. I kind of figured out in practice day what they wanted, and then what I could clean up with. So this is the Raid fish roller in a 4-inch. I was actually using a 3-inch, and this was really close to the shad that they were spitting up. I had a few fish, and they were lodged in their throat, and it was close to that, and they would hit that almost right away. And then after about 2 fish, the school would shut down, and I'd switch over to one that's a little bit off color. So same bait, Raid roller, and that's 3-inch. And what I would do is I kind of sit off of them, maybe 30 to 60 feet, and I would toss it to them, and I would let it hang. And the jig head I'm using it's a 3/32 ounce. They call it the range roller jig head, and the weight actually sits high in the bait. And what that does is when you twitch your rod, because that line tie sits high, the bait will have a rocking motion like this. So when you present it, it's essentially not moving, it's sitting above their head, but it's rocking back and forth. And with the baits that are two-toned, I think that kind of like it triggers them a little bit. So real subtle presentation, twitching it, they come up, they grab it, and then I would clean up with that backup. And then once that backup was done, I would go through with either another fluke style bait of a different color. This is a different bait. It's a depth shot Sakamana shad. And then once the shad bait, like they weren't touching them, you could tell on live scope when they're not interested. They don't even like try for it, or they nose up to it and they just ignore it completely. I would go with this is the Duo Realis Finder shad, and it's kind of like a worm imitation, but it's got that little tail kick on it. And I was able to get a few. They're more likely to nose up to this one and then follow it to the bottom and pick it up off the bottom, which they won't do with the other shad baits. So yeah, I basically.
Let me interrupt you real quick, Joe. So he just gave out a bunch of juice, guys. So
yeah,
I don't know if you guys
that's all of it too.
So
take notes.
You always want to milk them with your primary baits that you have, right? You want to hit that spot, get the fish that are biting on the bait that you found they're biting on, but always have that backup. I mean, I do the same thing. If I'm catching them on an A rig and they stop eating the A rig, I'll throw a single 2.8 out on a dirty juice guppy head, and then I'll clean up with that. So I mean, it's important to have that 1, 2, or 3 follow-up baits in your arsenal when you're out fishing these tournaments. So, or even it's out fun fishing. So that's good.
Yeah, that's something I didn't do last year either. If I presented a bait like this one to the fish and they ignored it, I was on to the next one. I never really considered, the value of throwing that second mop-up bait.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I believe that 18.5, there was a school off that hump again, and I caught 2 fish. A lot of these fish, they weren't that big. There were a lot of 14s and 15s, and I had to cycle those baits and those like 5 fishing spots to get those numbers to weed out those 14 and 15-inch fish. It's not like that area was loaded with 16 inchers. I did have 4 fish for 16 and then 1 for 18.5, but it took a lot of weeding through those fish. I think I caught somewhere between 20 and 30 just doing that rotation. And yeah, the 18.5 didn't come on the primary one I was throwing. I believe it was the secondary one. And if I hadn't thrown that, it wouldn't have bit.
So were you catching them suspended? You're finding they're coming up off the bottom feeding? That's what you're talking about?
They were actually, they were off the bottom. I would say probably 20 feet of water. They're suspended about 5 feet off. But there was 60 feet of water, a stone's throw away. But yeah,
I gotcha.
about 15.
And what
Cool.
size weight were you using?
Yeah, this is actually so this is the packaging it comes in. It's a 364 ounce. It's really, really light, and the fall rate is about a foot a second. So if
That
they're in 15, yeah, it's light. If they're in
Yeah.
15 feet of water, I'm waiting maybe like 9 seconds to put it 6 feet above their head, and just leaving it there, making them
that
fight
hook,
over it.
that's pretty new, that hook, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's super
I think.
super new.
Yeah, I follow the hookup tackle, and I believe I don't know where you saw it, Shane, but they announced it on their YouTube
Yeah.
channel that it
Man,
picks them
you
up.
got more patience than I do. I have a hard time fishing that slow.
I love it.
So
I
that was
love
the same technique that you did well at Rollins, correct?
Yeah, Rollins was a little different. It was the same head, and it was just the Sakamata shad. I think the roller was a little too big. This one's a little smaller. Actually, no, they're about the same size now I look at them. But they came off of this one.
Yeah.
And that was rock walls. That was you really had to like know what you're looking at, I feel like, at Rollins, because they were pressed up right against those rocks, and look for those brighter returns. But yeah, same thing, hanging over their head off of rock walls. They ate
So
it there too.
Joey actually ended up finishing third at Rollins for the Gambler Series, right?
Yep, third place.
Okay,
Yep, my
so-
first ever top 3.
He's already starting the year off pretty good with a third place finish and a win. So he's gonna have a good 2024.
On the same technique.
Yeah.
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 Let's see if I could just force feed them the
Milk it for the rest of the year.
technique for the rest of the year. Maybe just
Yeah.
upgrade
Actually, the springtime the fish suspend as well. In the summertime they suspend. So I don't see why it wouldn't work all year. Just maybe on a shallow water fishery, like Clear Lake or the Delta, might be a little more difficult. But Clear Lake, you can still do it there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see
Right
my
on.
grandma's in the chat. Shirley Silva. Hey, Nona.
Hi, Shirley.
Hi, Shirley. Hi, Grandma.
Thanks for
Yeah.
watching.
Oh,
So, what was the? I mean, so there's always a key. What I mean by that is it's when you throw it out there. It's not like you just reel it in. I mean, there was something else that you're. I'm going to try to pick your brain. I mean, you had to shake it. You had to swim it and shake it. How were you working that bait in order to keep it above its head, the fish's head, and then get the fish to trigger the bite?
So I think there's a couple things. I think you had to throw past them 10 feet and bring it over them. For some reason, they wouldn't bite it if you dropped it on their head, and they would literally nose up to it and look at it all the way back to the boat and then peel off. They needed to not see it, and then you needed to bring it across them. And I did have these baits rigged up on a rod that had 8-pound line, and I didn't get as many bites with the 8 pounds. So I think that the line was key. But also that stinger, I have a rod that has a stinger tip. And for people that don't know, it's a solid tip on a spinning rod. So you barely have to hold the rod, and you can almost move your thumb, and the rod has a ton of action. And what that does for the bait is, instead of if you use like a traditional spinning rod, when you go to twitch it and you want to get that body rock out of the bait, it kind of rises because the tip is too stiff. But if you have that stinger tip, it almost moves effortlessly, and it doesn't wear out your arm. So I think that was key too. Also, just throwing at multiple fish at once, because they tend to fight over it, I think. So throwing past, throwing at multiple fish, and then maybe that little rolling action had an effect. Those 3 things.
so Dave missed. Joe, you want to know what brand the baits were? If you want to give out your
for sure.
one more time.
So this one, the main one, was the Raid. I think it's the fish roller 3-inch. That was the one I caught most of the fish on. That was my primary. And then the cleanup bait that I used, and these are just fluke style baits. They're not, I mean, I like them because I nerd out on Japanese tackle, but they're just fluke style baits. So that was the second mop up. And then if I wanted a chance for them to eat it off the bottom and also doing the mid-strolling technique, I would use this guy, which is a Duo Realis Finder Shad. So yeah, all
There you
those
go.
techniques there's YouTube videos on people using those for mid-strolling, and they work really well because the body's elongated. It's tall, so it's more likely to rock with the ball head on it. This is one I use. I didn't use it for this event, but this is Jacob Wheeler's. He's an MLF pro. He designed one to do that body rock, and it's also tall, and that's what causes the mid-strolling rock, is having that tall body.
That's was it Rapala, right? I think came out of that one.
Yeah, it's the Rapala. Is it the Boss? I forget what the name of it is.
I can't remember. I interrupted you, John.
So when you throw the bait out, you have your rod pointing straight up. You don't have it like pointing at the fish. You have it pointing straight up, and then you kind of like give it a little shake, and you reel in real slow.
Yeah, so I'll keep the rod tip up,
Yep.
and I'll let it do its thing. And then if the wind's picking up, 'cause I'm using a really light line, that there's too much bend for it to do much. So you go to the side and you twitch it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it matters up or down. I think it imparts the same thing. Crush City, yeah, that's it, Max.
Cool.
Nice.
There was a few fish I caught roaming, but they were in that general area. I ended up hooking up into a 3 or 4 pound trout. I did the same thing at Rollins. When trout are like a good size, I actually have a hard time telling if it's a bass or a trout. And yeah, I hooked up into a good sized trout using, I forget which bait, but they catch a lot of trout too. The freeloader.
Yeah, I caught a few trout spooning myself. Yeah, they were eating that spoon, the trout.
Yeah.
The trout would kind of like be like by themselves, and they'd be off the bottom moving kind of fast, where the bass seemed like they had buddies with them, 2 or 3 other fish with them, and they were more like a brighter return, brighter dots, I guess.
Yeah, the one I hooked into was like 5 feet of water, and it was just a big glowing mark on live scope, and I couldn't help but throw at it. I'm like, maybe it's a trout, but I'm gonna hit it anyway just to be sure.
Heck yeah.
Shane knows I target those on purpose with jigs, huh?
Oh yeah, you sure do.
Oh man.
So you went in the middle fork. So once you go underneath the bridge, you go to the left. You went into the middle fork, and you had found bait out deep, and you found on your pre-fishing or looking at Google Earth, you went back and went back on the later date, and you found all these humps and stuff. Now, would you, when you found those humps on Google Earth, would you download those into your electronic unit so you know exactly where they're at? Or would you just kind of like think, so
you know what I mean? I did that religiously all last year, and it didn't really I kind of stopped doing it because I found that it wasn't helping me. I found myself doing milk runs on these spots and not getting much out of it. So now I just mark a couple of waypoints. Like I mark that area and maybe one hump. Whereas like last year, I would mark every single log, every single rock, every single
rock
hump.
pile, every break, every creek channel.
I've got away from doing that.
So, I when I first learned how to do the Google Earth upload thing, and I'd put all these waypoints on my graph, and I'd get to the lake, and I'm like, I'm just going to go where it takes me. I have a game plan. It seems like I never follow to those waypoints. I might stumble upon them here and there if you find something that's really juicy looking. But yeah, I'm kind of the same way with that as well.
And with some place like Oroville, you don't know how far the lake is drawn down until you get there.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific time of day getting bit last weekend?
Yeah, actually, you were asking me, right, James?
Yeah, Dave asked on the chat. I said in the cold and rain, what time of day was the best for you?
Yeah, right off the bat from 8 a.m. to about 11, it was on. Like they were hitting the bait. It was just a matter of convincing them. I wouldn't say they were like smoking it, but they were interested, and it just took which one and how to present it for them to eat it. And And then around noon, the bite got really, really stingy. Where I was getting a bite, maybe, I don't know, this probably isn't accurate, but maybe every 20 casts at a school of fish. It was taking, I would get one if I stood on them for like an hour. It got really bad. And I wasn't sure if that was the fishing pressure or if it was the weather. I actually got really, I was really calm in like the beginning of the day, but afternoon when the bite got really stingy, I never looked at the leaderboard, and I was like, based on past tournament results, I think I'm doing well, like maybe top 7. I need that one more to seal the deal and get up in the top 3, and I could not find it between noon and 3. They wouldn't bite it, and I was like tangling line. I was snapping off when I did get bites. I was kind of spiraling, but I think I had the winning bag before noon, and I stressed out for nothing.
Yeah, there you go. That's funny. All right, one more question from the guys, and then we'll go ahead and, unless John or Shane, you got one more thing to ask, and we'll hop on to the other part of it.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, Joey, those sandbaggers will do that to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You think you got it, and you're
I was
like,
one
oh,
of them.
man, who's going to upload their fish at the last minute?
You know, actually, not to promote sandbagging, but let's just say you're fishing around a bunch of people and they know who you are, and you've submitted a limit of fish, a good limit of fish. I'm not saying a lot of people become your good buddy, but
sometimes they
a few
do.
people come over and, you know, hey, how you doing? You know, and kind of see what you're doing.
Yeah.
And then not necessarily fish on top of you and stuff like that, but, you know, little things like that could go a long ways, you know. So there is a game plan, kind of like, you know, I kind of like myself, I submit it as I go, because if I'm gonna you know, make a mistake, I want to know right away if I have the wrong identifier or whatever. You know what I mean? Submitted the wrong, you know, did something stupid, and you know, at least I could, you know, submit another picture or whatever. And for me, I stress out if I wait.
Yeah.
I stress.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. I'm always, you know, if I have like 10 fish throughout the day and I go to upload last minute, I'm spending so much time trying to figure out which one's what and then what one's a duplicate. And so I just upload it all.
I put them all in the live well.
Yeah.
That helps me. Just put them all in live well, every one of them. Yeah.
It's a good thing for me this year. I got a new boat, so not everybody knows what boat I'm in. So a little incognito for a couple.
Oh, we all know.
Yeah, they can't miss it now. But
but I also wait to the last minute, and it's stressful. I was stressed in the last half hour trying to get those fish in, trying to find that one 16-inch that looks exactly like the last 16-inch that I had submitted.
When you catch a fish, right, and you go before you take a picture of your next fish, not a picture of the bow of your boat. That way you got something to break up all your fish. It could be just a random picture. Just have something to break them up in your camera roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a timeline too on stamped on it.
Yep.
But I put them in the live well. It only takes you a second to put it in live well.
Yeah.
You know, you take the picture, submit it in live well, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And for me, it's when I don't have reception, that seems to be something that, you know, I don't stress over. And at the end, I just submit them all.
Yep.
It being wet out there didn't help trying to cycle through them either.
Oh yeah. Yeah, then you're zigzagging back to your ramp, and you're like, "Oh no, I'm gonna be late."
All right, so let's
I'm gonna be late.
Let's go ahead and we're gonna talk about new guys, or what, you know, what are some of your necessities that you guys need on the water. All right, you know, first things first, we're talking safety, so you got to have your life jacket. You know, always wear your life jacket. Always have that. And if you guys need anything, I'm going to put a link to the shop in the chat, so you guys can head over to the Headwaters website. He will ship anything and everything he's got in the store, guys. He will ship kayaks to you. Don't forget about that. So Brian's given us a platform to do this and share this stuff with you guys. He's doing a lot for the community, so let's support him and Headwaters. It's a great company, great people. So. But anyway,
top-notch customer service.
Anyway, let's talk about our necessities, guys. So life jacket, right? Most of us are
number one.
Pedal drives now. I have a pedal drive. I have 2 motors on my kayak, and I still always carry a paddle. I don't leave without a paddle. It's
Right.
redundancy, guys. Redundancy. I don't want to get stuck on the water. I know we were talking before we got on the chat last year at Pardee. They had some crazy winds kick up, and I was all the way out there, about a 5 mile run from the ramp, and that wind switched direction. Hail started coming, and I got to moving. But that's why we have redundancy. I don't want to get stuck out in the middle of the lake and not be able to get back to the shore.
And on top of that, I mean, carry a whistle, carry an air horn. You
Yep.
never know when those things are going to possibly could
Save
save
your
your
life.
life.
Yep.
Especially, summertime, you got so much boat traffic. These guys are drinking. They may not see you. And, using an air horn could really, help them maybe see you if they're coming right to you.
Yep.
And a safety flag.
Yeah,
Safety
our
flag.
360 lights, right, guys? So we got to have them for low light condition, but put it on even if you go out when it's light out, because
I saw.
the flag will still. I mean, I've had boats coming at me, and I used to run a
don't know.
blue PA, and they don't see you. They don't see it. Brian vote yes. A hand pump, a bilge pump, hand bilge pump. I had one. I have one in my boat still, and I've not used it in the new one, but in my old one, I have used that plenty of times.
Or
'Cause-
you could always do a bilge pump. I have 2 bilge pumps in my kayak just in case. You just never know. Like automatic. Flip a switch and it sucks water out if it needs to.
Yeah, I know.
I saw a guy wearing one of those reflective bright chartreuse vests.
Yeah.
And I saw him coming way across the lake. And I thought, man, that's a good idea. I mean, that's something, next to a flag, it's even better.
Yeah.
Because, your chest is bigger. Having a life jacket underneath it, people might say, oh, he's not wearing a life jacket. But, still, I have one. I use it when I ride my bike, it's the way people drive. But I was thinking, man, I should wear that when I'm in the kayak. So, they could see you better.
Yep.
So that's something else. I mean, you don't want to get overwhelmed being a newbie and stuff, but
Yeah.
you always have to think safety first. And one thing that I do see that people don't wear wetsuits or a dry suit. They put on their 100-mile-an-hour suit. Now, I don't know if anybody's fell in the water wearing a 100-mile-an-hour suit, but it will keep the Gore-Tex will keep it warm. But I think it's like 1 minute you get a shock, cold water shock, and then 20 minutes later you're hypothermic.
Yeah.
And then so if you wear a wetsuit and you fall in, you're going to survive. I wear a wetsuit, and it's the 120 rule. The 120 is the water and air temp combined. If it's above that, then you can get away with not wearing one. But if it's below it, I highly suggest spending $150 and get the Farmer John one where your arms are free. It's like a vest. Always wear like a wool and polyester undergarments with a wool jacket on top. And believe it or not, they keep you pretty warm, even in the rain. And all you really need once you have the bottoms on, all you really need is a jacket over your shoulders, some type of rain
You don't
jacket.
want to be waterlogged with jeans on if you go in.
No, with boots
Yeah.
on and stuff. You don't want to wear no heavy boots and stuff. So, and I'm guilty of that at first. That's what I wore. I wore my rain gear, my 100-mile-an-hour suit from when I was in the bass boat. And if I would have fell in, I would have been screwed.
Yep.
So
I just don't
Yeah,
know.
we all think
wet.
these kayaks. Go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, my thing is about wetsuit. I don't know if I can find one big enough for my size. That's
well, they stretch. I could let you try mine on. No, they
probably
can-
take me 3 hours to tug that on my body.
I think we should all take a picture of us wearing
Yeah, no
wetsuits
kidding.
just to gross people out.
In all seriousness, though, John is being, legit,
Yeah.
right? Safety
Yeah.
concern. We're fishing water temps 49, 50 degrees right now. You go in, it's going to be not long before you can't do nothing. So, take safety. We all want to go home, see our loved ones, and fish another day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's utmost important for us. That's why, we're life jackets. We're talking, high vis clothes. I work in a rock quarry. I'm constantly wearing high vis, and that's just what we have to do. We got equipment and everything going around. You got your whistle so people can see you. I mean, hear you. Even if you fall in, the whistle can save your life. And
carry an extra 15 foot of rope too with a carabine on it or something in case you need to get towed in for some reason. If you are out there and everything's nothing's working and you can't get in, you're going to need to have someone tow you in.
There was a guy at Oroville that actually had to get towed in. He ran out of battery out in the middle of the lake.
Yeah. He was lucky he got someone to help him. A lot of times you're out there by yourself and you get the paddle out and you start paddling. You're just praying someone sees you.
It's shocking how fast you can pedal your kayak when you don't have motors and batteries in there. But when you have that motor, you add the batteries, you add all the extra weight. You don't get it pedal as fast. You have all that drag of the motor hanging in the water. Just you have those things to think about, right? We're so used to our comfort of clicking the throttle and going. And yes, Dave, always tell somebody where you're going. I always let my wife know, hey, I'm going to this lake, this launch, but I'll come home. You don't hear from me a few hours, something happened, right? Yep. It's important, especially with the cold weather.
And a dry bag with extra set of clothes, matches, quick fire starter. You just, you never know. You get turned over out in the middle and there ain't no one around and you need to get to shore and, you're going to need to get a fire quick to get warm.
Yeah. Still wool. All you have to do is get a little piece of still wool and you could actually get a little spark and still wool will burn. I mean, it burns real quick, real easy.
Yeah.
So a little fire starter with still wool. And, I have a pack and I pack it a certain way. I got a towel on top to dry myself off, and then the next one is actually my undergarments and then sweats. And then, so as I pull out, I can put it on instead of having to pull it all out. You know what I mean? So, and then I have food and water on the bottom of it, and a fire starter. Yeah. So if you do find yourself in the water, I suggest too to prior to even taking your kayak out, practice flipping it and getting it back over and getting in the kayak and figure out how to get back in the kayak. Wear a life jacket, do it in someone's pool, and do it with your kayak empty. And you got to remember, once you put a trolling motor on it and you put a battery or two in there, you put all your tackle in there, you may not be able to get that kayak flipped over.
Yeah.
So I actually have a handle I've attached to one side of the kayak, and I practiced it 5 times one day. The first time I was so winded by the time I got back in the kayak that if I would have had all my stuff in there and stuff, I probably would have just, held onto the kayak and, and try to catch my breath. But, you got to remember too, that shock, you lose your breath, so and that starts it. So practice getting in your kayak. I actually leave on my left hand side of my kayak, I leave that open. It's a Hobie. It has the H rail. So I have to climb in right there. That's how I climb in. And that was the only way I could climb in. I didn't try it with the trolling motor on the front, so you could step on your trolling motor. And that's another thing too. So right now there's no kill switches for the trolling motor in the front. Have that control attached to you, to your life jacket. Don't put it on your neck. Okay, don't do that because you could hang it up and choke yourself out, but have it attached to your jacket, and then if you have a trolling motor in the back, you might be able to crawl in off the trolling motor on the back too. Yeah. That would be another way to get in. But you got to remember, if it's during the cold, and you're weighted down and stuff, it's going to be extremely difficult. If you're away from the shore and you're out in the middle of the lake and stuff happens, you know, you literally have seconds to get back in your kayak, to get it flipped over and back in it. You know, otherwise you're gonna float out in the middle of the lake, and that's where the whistle comes in.
Yep.
And have that whistle attached to your life jacket, not in a storage or something. Attach your life jacket, or you could just get it and put it right in your mouth. Mine's on my zipper, and it's attached right there. So, yeah.
So let's just talk. We tournament wise, right? So things we're gonna need. You're gonna need your 360 light. Shane, you had that one. Probably Yak Attack. Just the fold up ones. They fold up pretty easy. They store away, right? Catch boards and tourney tag holders. All things tourney tags, catch boards, all that stuff you guys can find at Headwaters on the website as well. Perfect. There we go. And I like the little sliding deals on there that slide on there, the hard ones. They work good. You're going to want a headlamp. You know, a lot of times we launch in the dark. You want a headlamp. That way you can see where you're going, what you're doing, how you're setting things up. And then, you know, there's the kayak itself. It's personal preference. You know, you gotta kind of play with it and set things up. And you know, I've probably moved things around a million times on mine to get it to where we like it. But you know, that's the name of the game. Try it out. If you don't like it, try something new. Yeah, you know, guys, we're gonna wrap it up. It's been a long episode tonight, so I appreciate everybody. Nav lights, yes, Troy. If you have a motor, you have to have your red and green nav lights. Yep. I skipped over that one. And you have to have it registered, and you got to have a boater card. And when ramp etiquette, guys, right? If you're at the bottom of the ramp, turn your headlamp lights off. If you're launching and there's people trying to back down, there's nothing worse than being blinded by your headlights down the bottom of the ramp. Just leave your running lights on, leave the amber ones on. That way they can see those and shut them off. You know, get in and out, all the good stuff with that. Cell phone tether leash.
Yeah, anything you want to say, make sure it's tethered.
Yeah,
you don't want to lose it. Make sure it's tethered.
That loses money.
Mine, right? I have a little deal that just kind of it sticks to the back of the phone. And it comes out the bottom of the case. It's not one of the ones that slide over it because those things always find the rubber slides off of there, and you're going to lose your phone anyway. But having that little hook come out where the charging port is has been awesome. It works good. Yeah, congratulations, Joe. Awesome job, bud.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations. Way to
Congrats.
go. Yeah,
Great way to
appreciate
start 2024, and I'm sure we'll see you up in the leaderboard a few more times this year.
So Joey,
Guys,
where are you fishing next? Just
Like for fun?
all right. What tournament you fishing next, Joey?
I'm gonna fish the Gamblers next. At,
Okay.
Party.
I believe that's Party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, looking forward to
great segue. You didn't know it. Next week, we're going to have the owner of Hooked Tackle Shop in IM.
All right.
Jay Kelly is going to be on. His shop is 10 minutes away from Pardee. So I guarantee you there's probably going to be a Pardee fishing report next week. So don't miss out. If y'all want to know what they're doing, I'm going to go fish it this weekend because I won't fish the Gamblers tournament. I'll be traveling. So I may tell you something, I may not, but I'm pretty sure Jay's going to spill the beans on Pardee. Guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you.
One more thing,
Oh.
James.
Oh,
You're heading where?
I'm headed to Oklahoma.
And what are you going to do in Oklahoma?
I'm going to do some fishing.
And
this little tournament.
what are you going
This
to fish?
little Bassmaster Kayak Championship tournament on 10 killer.
James
Wow.
qualified for the Bassmasters Classic. He's going to travel back there with let's see, there's
The Fish
James,
Whisperer,
Damien,
Sean Beach,
Sean Beach,
and Anthony Garcia.
Anthony Garcia, and there's one more.
No, I think that's it. 4 of us are going, as far as I know.
Just 4? I thought
Yep.
5 people qualified.
There was like 6 or 7 that did. I know
but they're
4
not
of
going
us
to go.
have-
Oh, for
That's
sure.
exciting.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to
Yeah.
keep, you guys need to give us some updates too while you're there. You just can't leave us hanging. And if I call like every 2 hours, that's just because I'm living my life through your life.
You're the one retired, John, and has new coworkers. My coworkers talk back. All right, yours don't.
Yeah, mine are green.
Yeah. So yeah, guys. So we're gonna have on Jay next week. The following week, we're gonna have Thomas Kanemoto from P Line. We'll talk all things P Line and first gen fishing. And
right.
then that's March 5th, I think is that one. The 12th we'll do a show. Don't know yet. I don't know about the Tuesday when we're in Oklahoma. We have a captain's meeting Tuesday night. Don't know when that gets over, but it might be the house. The four of us hop on and just kind of BS the day before we start kicking off that tournament.
Yeah, we want to hear that.
So,
Definitely.
We will talk to you guys next Tuesday. I appreciate the support. Appreciate you guys tuning in and all the comments. So we'll
Thanks,
see y'all next
James.
Tuesday.
Thanks, James.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good luck,
Joey.
James.
See y'all
Good job,
guys.